The quantum arrays at the Ganymede Deep Space Research Station hummed with an unusual frequency. Dr. Sarah Chen stood motionless before the holographic display, her dark eyes fixed on the anomalous signal pattern that had appeared 17 hours ago. The signal defied conventional analysis. It wasn't radio waves, quantum entanglement, or any other known form of communication. It simply existed. "Tell me I'm not the only one seeing this," Sarah whispered, her breath fogging the crystal viewport that looked out over Ganymede's icy surface. Behind her, Dr. James Rodriguez adjusted his haptic interface gloves and manipulated the signal projection. "If you're hallucinating, we all are," James replied, his usually steady hands trembling slightly as he worked. "The signal's getting stronger. Whatever it is, it's propagating through subspace in a way we've never seen before." The research station's AI, Araya, chimed in through the ambient speakers. "Analysis complete. Signal contains embedded quantum signatures consistent with technological origin, but utilizing principles beyond current human understanding. Caution is advised." Sarah ran her fingers through her short black hair, a habit she developed during her decade of quantum communications research. "Araya, how many civilizations have we contacted since achieving FTL capability?" In the 15 years since the development of the Armstrong drive, humanity has encountered 47 distinct civilizations, all within the Orion arm of the Milky Way. Araya responded promptly. "And how many of them use technology we can't even begin to comprehend?" "None," Araya stated. "While several civilizations possess more advanced technology in specific areas, all observed technologies operate within known physical principles." The implications hung heavy in the air. This signal was different. It wasn't just advanced. It was alien in the truest sense of the word. Commander Elena Torres entered the observation deck, her boots making no sound on the composite flooring. 2 decades of military service had given her movements a practiced efficiency that matched her sharp gaze. "Dr. Chen, I need your assessment. Is this a first contact situation, or are we dealing with something else?" Sarah turned from the viewport, her expression grave. "Commander, I don't think this is first contact. I think this is a warning." As if in response to her words, the signal's pattern shifted. The quantum arrays screamed in protest as energy surged through them. The holographic display exploded with new data, forming into shapes and patterns that seemed to twist reality itself. "ARIA, emergency protocols," Elena shouted, but the AI was already ahead of her. "Implementing quantum shielding. Warning, signal contains embedded consciousness patterns. Detecting attempted interface with station systems." The lights flickered as something pushed against the quantum firewalls. Sarah felt it in her mind, a presence vast and ancient, trying to make contact. James staggered, his haptic gloves sparking as he tore them off. "It's alive," he gasped. "The signal, it's alive." The presence resolved itself into coherent thought patterns. Images and concepts flooded their minds. Worlds consumed by living darkness, civilizations falling to entities that existed between dimensions, and a desperate plan set in motion millennia ago. Sarah's consciousness expanded as the alien memories merged with her own. She saw them, the void entities. They weren't creatures in any conventional sense, but rather tears in the fabric of reality that had gained sentience. They fed on the quantum consciousness of entire civilizations, leaving behind empty husks of planets stripped of all life and thought. The warning was clear. They were coming. The signal was sent by the last survivors of a galaxy-spanning civilization called the Lumina. They had fought the void entities for thousands of years before finally falling. But in their final moments, they had seeded the galaxy with quantum beacons, warnings to other civilizations about what was coming. As the alien presence withdrew, Sarah found herself on her knees, nose bleeding from the mental contact. Elena helped her up as James worked to stabilize the quantum arrays. "Commander," Sarah said, her voice hoarse, "we need to contact Earth immediately." What I saw, what we all saw, it's just the beginning. The void entities have noticed us. Our quantum technology, our consciousness research, it's drawn their attention. Elena's jaw tightened as she processed the implications. How long do we have? Sarah closed her eyes, sorting through the imported memories. Months, maybe a year. The Lumina left us more than a warning. They left us their research, their technology. But it's beyond anything we've ever encountered. We'll need to evolve our understanding of physics, of consciousness itself, if we want to have any chance of surviving what's coming. Then we better get started, Elena said, activating her neural link to Earth Command. Because humanity didn't come this far to be consumed by some interdimensional horror show. As emergency protocols engaged across the solar system, Sarah stared at the quantum arrays, still humming with alien energy. The Lumina had fought and died believing someone would eventually find their message. Now humanity had to prove worthy of their sacrifice. The war for consciousness itself was about to begin. 3 months after the Ganymede signal, Earth had transformed. The orbital defense platforms that once seemed impressive now looked like children's toys compared to the quantum-enhanced weaponry being installed. Dr. Sarah Chen watched from the viewport of the newly commissioned research vessel Prometheus as another quantum cannon took its position in high Earth orbit. The ship's quantum core pulsed with energy harvested from the Lumina signal, its crystalline structure growing and adapting as humanity's scientists raced to understand the alien technology. In the ship's main laboratory, holographic displays showed the latest simulations of void entity encounters. The math doesn't make sense, Dr. James Rodriguez muttered, his fingers dancing through complex equations floating in the air. These entities don't just break the laws of physics, they ignore them completely. Sarah moved to stand beside him, studying the calculations. Dark circles under her eyes betrayed countless sleepless nights spent decoding the Lumina's quantum database. That's because we're thinking in three-dimensional terms. The void entities exist in quantum superposition across multiple dimensions. They're not breaking physics. They're operating on a level we're barely beginning to comprehend. The laboratory door slid open as Commander Elena Torres entered, followed by Dr. Yuki Tanaka, Earth's leading expert in quantum consciousness theory. Yuki's presence had been a game-changer in understanding the Lumina technology, her theories about consciousness as a fundamental force of the universe proving crucial to their research. "We've detected something," Elena announced, her voice tense. "The quantum arrays on Mars just picked up distortions in subspace. They matched the Lumina's descriptions of early void entity manifestation." Sarah's heart skipped a beat. "Where?" "The Kuiper Belt. We think they're testing our detection capabilities." Elena brought up a tactical display showing the solar system. Red markers indicated the distortion points, forming a pattern that seemed to pulse with malevolent intent. "They're learning," Yuki observed, her quiet voice carrying an edge of concern. "Each distortion is slightly different, as if they're probing for weaknesses in the quantum fabric of our space." James cursed under his breath. "We're not ready. The Guardian Protocol is still theoretical. We haven't even successfully tested the quantum consciousness amplifiers." "Then we'll have to accelerate our timeline," Elena stated firmly. "Dr. Chen, what's the status of the neural interface?" Sarah gestured to a sealed chamber at the back of the laboratory. Inside, a delicate web of quantum-entangled crystals surrounded a central control chair. "The hardware is ready, but interfacing human consciousness with Lumina technology is incredibly dangerous. The test subjects we've tried it with, their minds couldn't handle the expansion of awareness." "Show me," Elena demanded. Sarah brought up the medical records from their attempts. The human brain isn't meant to perceive multiple dimensions simultaneously. The neural overload caused seizures, psychosis, and in one case, complete cognitive shutdown. We need more time to develop safety protocols. "Time is the one thing we don't have," Yuki interjected, stepping closer to examine the neural interface. "But what if we're approaching this wrong? The Lumina weren't trying to turn us into them. They were giving us the tools to find our own way." She turned to face the others, her eyes bright with sudden inspiration. The void entities feed on consciousness, yes, but human consciousness has something unique, something the Lumina noticed in their studies of emerging civilizations. We don't just think, we feel. Our emotions affect quantum fields in ways they never fully understood. What are you suggesting? Elena asked. We modify the Guardian Protocol. Instead of trying to replicate the Lumina's defensive systems, we create something new, something that uses our capacity for emotional resonance as a weapon. Sarah's mind raced with the implications. The quantum amplifiers, we could retune them to enhance emotional states instead of pure consciousness. Fear, anger, love, they all create distinct patterns in quantum fields. And the void entities have never encountered anything like human emotions, James added, catching on to the idea. They feed on rational thought, on ordered consciousness. Our emotions might be toxic to them. Elena studied the neural interface chamber with new eyes. How long to implement these modifications? A few days for the hardware changes, Sarah estimated. But we'll need volunteers to test it. And given the risks, I'll do it, Elena said firmly. I've got the neural training from military service, and as commander, I can't ask my crew to risk something I wouldn't. Before anyone could object, alarms blared throughout the ship. Araya's voice carried an unusual note of urgency. Multiple quantum distortions detected. Void entity manifestation imminent. All personnel to battle stations. Through the viewport, space itself seemed to tear open. Reality buckled as massive shapes emerged from the dimensional rifts, shapes that hurt the mind to look at directly. The void entities had arrived earlier than expected, and humanity's only defense was still experimental. Begin the modifications now, Elena ordered, already moving toward the neural interface chamber. We'll test it in combat. Sarah wanted to protest, to insist on proper safety protocols, but the commander was right. They were out of time. As the ship's quantum shields activated, she began the interface modifications, praying that humanity's emotions would prove to be more powerful than anyone had imagined. The first battle for Earth's survival was about to begin, and their only weapon was the very thing that made them human. The Prometheus shuddered as another dimensional rift tore open nearby. In the neural interface chamber, Commander Elena Torres gripped the control chair's armrests. Her consciousness expanded beyond normal human limits by the modified Lumina technology. Sarah Chen monitored the quantum readings with growing concern as Elena's emotional state broadcasted through the ship's amplifiers. Neural patterns are holding stable, Sarah reported, though her voice betrayed her worry. Emotional resonance at 70% and climbing. Through the quantum link, Elena perceived the void entities in their true form, vast, incomprehensible beings that existed in multiple dimensions simultaneously. Their presence felt like ice in her mind, ancient and utterly alien. But now she could also sense something else. They were curious about the humans' resistance. They'd never encountered anything like this. Elena gasped, her enhanced consciousness struggling to process the input. Our emotions, they don't understand them. It's making them hesitate. Dr. Yuki Tanaka studied the quantum field readings with intense focus. The emotional broadcast is creating interference patterns in their dimensional rifts. Commander, try focusing on a specific memory, something with strong emotional content. Elena closed her eyes, drawing upon her years of military service. She chose a memory of loss. The day she'd watched her sister's ship disappear into a temporal anomaly during humanity's first FTL experiments. The pain and grief of that moment flooded through the quantum amplifiers. The nearest void entity recoiled violently, its form distorting as it encountered the unfamiliar emotional energy. But the victory was short-lived. The entity adapted, shifting its dimensional frequency to bypass the emotional interference. They're learning, James Rodriguez warned from his station. Quantum shields failing on decks 3 through 7. We can't maintain this defense indefinitely. Sarah's hands flew over the control panels, trying to stabilize the neural interface. Alina's vital signs were becoming erratic as the mental strain increased. "Commander, we need to disconnect. Your neural patterns are approaching critical levels." "Wait," Alina commanded, her voice strained but determined. "There's something in their reaction we're missing." "Yuki, what happens to quantum fields when exposed to rapidly changing emotional states?" Yuki's eyes widened as she caught Alina's meaning. "They become chaotic, unpredictable. The void entities feed on ordered consciousness. They need stability to maintain their form in our dimension." "Exactly," Alina managed through gritted teeth. "So let's show them just how unstable human emotions can be." Before anyone could stop her, Alina began cycling through memories rapidly. Joy, grief, love, anger, fear, hope, each emotion broadcasting through the quantum amplifiers in quick succession. The effect was immediate and devastating. The void entities' forms began to fluctuate wildly, their dimensional anchors destabilizing as they encountered the chaotic emotional storm. But the strain on Alina was enormous. Blood trickled from her nose as her consciousness expanded beyond safe limits. "Neural overload imminent," Sarah shouted, moving to shut down the interface. "Commander, please." "No." Alina's voice carried the weight of multiple dimensions. "I can feel it. They're not just retreating. They're changing. Our emotions aren't just weapons against them. They're teaching them something new." Through the quantum link, Alina sensed confusion rippling through the void entities. These beings had existed for eons, consuming ordered consciousness across countless galaxies. But human emotions were introducing chaos into their perfect mathematical existence. For the first time in their ancient history, they were experiencing something akin to feelings. "Dr. Chen," Alina called out, her voice weakening. "The Lumina were wrong about one thing. The void entities aren't our enemies. They're incomplete. They'd been seeking consciousness across the universe because they're missing the emotional component. We're not fighting a war. We're witnessing an evolution." The realization hit Sarah like a physical force. The Guardian Protocol. It was never meant to be a weapon. The Lumina wanted us to complete what they couldn't, to teach the void entities how to feel. As if in response to this understanding, the quantum readings began to shift. The void entities were no longer attacking. They were attempting to communicate. Their dimensional rifts stabilized into patterns that mimicked human neural networks. But the breakthrough came at a cost. Alina convulsed in the control chair, her mind stretched beyond its limits by the prolonged contact. As Sarah and James rushed to disconnect her from the interface, Yuki made a discovery that would change everything. "Look at these patterns," she exclaimed, pointing to the quantum field display. "The void entities aren't just learning emotions. They're creating new dimensional frequencies that can sustain both ordered consciousness and emotional chaos simultaneously. They're evolving into something entirely new." As medical teams rushed Alina to the infirmary, Sarah stared at the shifting patterns on the display. Humanity had done what the Lumina thought impossible, not through superior technology or military might, but through the very thing that made them human, their capacity to feel. The question now was, what would these newly awakened beings become, and how would their evolution change the fate of the universe itself? As the Prometheus's quantum core hummed with unprecedented energy readings, Sarah realized they were about to find out. The medical bay of the Prometheus hummed with advanced quantum healing equipment as Commander Alina Torres lay unconscious, her mind slowly recovering from the unprecedented contact with the void entities. Dr. Sarah Chen stood at her bedside, studying the neural readings that danced across holographic displays. "Her consciousness is stabilizing," Dr. Yuki Tanaka reported, adjusting the quantum resonance fields around Alina's bed. "But the neural patterns are different. It's as if her mind has been fundamentally altered by the experience." James Rodriguez entered the medical bay, his usual confident stride replaced by exhausted shuffling. "The void entities have maintained their position at the edge of the solar system. They're still transmitting those new quantum frequencies, HFY says they're trying to establish a more stable form of communication. Sarah moved to the observation window, watching the distant dimensional rifts that now pulsed with a gentler, almost rhythmic energy. They're waiting for Elena to recover. She's the only human who's made direct emotional contact with them. That's not entirely accurate, Yuki said softly, her eyes fixed on the commander's neural readings. Look at these patterns. Elena didn't just share emotions with them. She created a permanent quantum link. Part of her consciousness exists in their dimensional space now, just as part of them exists in ours. The implications of this revelation hung heavy in the air. Humanity's first true merger with an alien consciousness hadn't come through technology or biological enhancement, but through the raw power of human emotions. Elena's eyes fluttered open, her gaze distant, and filled with an otherworldly awareness. "They're beautiful," she whispered, her voice rough from disuse. "In their own dimension, they're like living mathematics, pure thought given form. But they were lonely. So lonely. For billions of years, they searched for something they couldn't even understand." Sarah leaned forward, taking Elena's hand. "What did they find in us?" "Chaos." Elena smiled weakly. "Beautiful, unpredictable chaos. Our emotions don't follow mathematical laws. They can't be quantified or predicted. We're walking paradoxes to them, and that fascination saved us all." The ship's quantum core suddenly pulsed with new energy as the void entities initiated another communication attempt. This time, however, the transmission was different, structured in a way that human minds could comprehend without the neural interface. Araya's voice filled the medical bay. "Incoming transmission decoded. The entities are requesting permission to share their accumulated knowledge in exchange for continued exposure to human emotional patterns. They want to trade." James asked incredulously. "Universal knowledge for feelings?" "Not exactly." Elena pushed herself up, her movements careful but determined. "They want to learn how to evolve." The Lumina were right about one thing. The void entities consume consciousness, but not out of malice. They've been trying to understand something that's been missing from their existence since their creation. Yuki's eyes widened with understanding. "Free will. Emotions give us the ability to make choices that defy logic, to act on instinct and intuition. The void entities exist as pure thought, bound by the laws of mathematics and physics. They've never experienced true choice." Elena nodded. "And now they want to grow beyond their original nature. But they need our help to do it." She turned to Sarah, her eyes now carrying depths of wisdom that hadn't been there before. "Dr. Chen, remember how we modified the Guardian Protocol to broadcast emotions? What if we reversed it? Created a system that could safely facilitate the exchange of consciousness between our species?" Sarah's mind raced with possibilities. A quantum bridge between dimensions, allowing controlled emotional transfer while protecting both sides from neural overload. But the power requirements would be enormous. "We have something better than power," Elena smiled. "We have purpose. The void entities aren't just offering knowledge. They're offering partnership. They can teach us how to perceive and manipulate multiple dimensions, while we teach them how to feel, how to choose, how to grow." James studied the complex equations streaming across his tablet. The mathematics involved in creating a stable dimensional bridge would rewrite our understanding of physics. "That's exactly the point," Yuki interjected, excitement building in her voice. "We're not just sharing knowledge or emotions. We're creating something entirely new. A fusion of human chaos and void mathematics, emotion and logic, choice and consequence." Elena swung her legs over the side of the bed, waving away Sarah's concerned protests. The Lumina spent thousands of years fighting the void entities because they saw them as a threat to be eliminated. We spent 3 months trying to understand them, and in doing so, we've changed the course of cosmic evolution. The quantum core pulsed again, stronger this time, as if emphasizing Elena's words. Through the observation window, the dimensional rifts began shifting color, displaying patterns that somehow manage to be both mathematically perfect and emotionally expressive. "They're ready," Elena said, standing despite her weakness. "The question is, are we?" Sarah looked at her friends and colleagues, seeing in their faces the same mix of fear and excitement that she felt. Humanity had come to the edge of known space, expecting to fight for survival. Instead, they'd found something far more precious: the chance to help another species transcend its limitations, and in doing so, transcend their own. "We're ready," Sarah declared, already beginning the calculations for the quantum bridge. "Let's show them what humanity does best, making the impossible possible through sheer stubborn determination." As the Prometheus's crew began their work, the void entities pulsed with anticipation, their dimensional rifts shimmering with new possibilities. The universe itself seemed to hold its breath, waiting to see what would emerge from this unprecedented collaboration between chaos and order, emotion and logic, human and void. 1 year after first contact with the void entities, the Sol system had become unrecognizable. Quantum bridges shimmered between dimensions, their crystalline structures housing the greatest exchange of knowledge in human history. The Prometheus, once a lone research vessel, now served as the central hub for what many called the convergence, the unprecedented merger of human emotion and void mathematics. Dr. Sarah Chen stood in the ship's newly constructed dimensional observatory, watching as streams of consciousness flowed through the quantum bridges. The sight still took her breath away. Pure thought made visible, emotions transformed into mathematical patterns that danced between realities. Still hard to believe, isn't it? Commander Elena Torres joined her at the viewport, her neural implants gleaming with void-enhanced technology. The commander had become something more than human during that first contact, yet somehow remained fundamentally herself, a bridge between two species. "The Lumina would never have imagined this," Sarah replied, gesturing to the displays showing the latest breakthrough. "They spent millennia fighting the void when all they needed to do was feel." Around them, the observatory hummed with activity. Dr. Yuki Tanaka coordinated with a team of scientists, both human and void, working on what they called emotional mathematics, a new field that merged quantum physics with human psychology. James Rodriguez, now sporting his own neural enhancements, manipulated complex dimensional equations that would have been impossible to comprehend a year ago. "We've received another transmission from the Andromeda Galaxy," Elena announced, her enhanced consciousness picking up the quantum signals directly. 3 more civilizations have made contact with void entities in their sectors. They're requesting guidance on establishing their own convergence programs. Sarah smiled, remembering their own early struggles to bridge the gap between species. "What did you tell them?" "The truth, that it's not about technology or power. It's about being willing to share what makes us different, to see strength in chaos rather than trying to impose order." The observatory's main display activated, showing a real-time visualization of human consciousness interacting with void mathematics. What had once seemed like incomprehensible alien geometry now told a story of evolution and growth. The void entities had learned to experience emotions without losing their mathematical nature, while humans had gained the ability to perceive multiple dimensions without sacrificing their emotional core. Dr. Chen, Aria's voice carried a warmth that would have been impossible for an eye a year ago. "The Void Collective is requesting your presence for the initialization of Project Genesis." Sarah's heart raced with excitement. Project Genesis represented the culmination of everything they'd learned, a joint attempt to create new forms of consciousness that embodied the best of both species, not through conquest or assimilation, but through willing collaboration and mutual growth. "They're ready?" she asked, though she already knew the answer. The void mathematics flowing through the quantum bridges had taken on a distinctly anticipatory pattern. "We all are," Elena confirmed, placing a hand on Sarah's shoulder. "The void entities have prepared the dimensional space, and our emotional resonance matrices are at optimal levels. This is what everything has been leading to." As Sarah made her way to the Genesis chamber, She reflected on how far they'd come. Humanity had faced what seemed like certain extinction, only to discover that their greatest weakness, their chaotic, emotional nature, was actually their greatest strength. The void entities, ancient and powerful as they were, had been incomplete without the human element they'd unknowingly sought across the cosmos. The Genesis chamber itself was a marvel of hybrid technology. Human intuition merged with void precision. Within its quantum-enhanced walls, they would attempt something unprecedented. The birth of a new form of life, one that existed simultaneously in multiple dimensions and possessed both mathematical perfection and emotional depth. Beginning initialization sequence, Sarah announced, her voice steady despite the magnitude of what they were attempting. Around her, human scientists worked alongside void consciousness, their efforts synchronized in ways that would have seemed impossible just a year ago. The chamber filled with swirling patterns of light as void mathematics merged with human emotional resonance. Through the quantum bridges, Sarah could sense the anticipation of the entire void collective, billions of ancient entities watching, waiting, hoping. Genesis point approaching, ARIA reported. Dimensional convergence at optimal levels. Emotional resonance stable. Elena stepped forward, her enhanced consciousness serving as the final bridge between species. Together, she said simply, and in that word lay everything they'd learned about cooperation, growth, and the power of joining rather than fighting. The Genesis chamber erupted with energy as the new consciousness took form. It was neither human nor void, but something entirely new. A being of pure potential, born from the union of chaos and order, emotion and logic, choice and consequence. As the energy stabilized, Sarah saw it clearly for the first time. A consciousness that danced between dimensions like light through a prism, each facet revealing new possibilities. It was beautiful in ways that defied both mathematical description and emotional expression. "Welcome," Elena whispered, her voice carrying across dimensional barriers to reach the newborn entity. "Welcome to existence." The response came not in words or mathematics, but in a wave of pure understanding that touched everyone present. This was more than a scientific achievement. It was proof that the universe's greatest advances come not from conquest or competition, but from the willing union of different ways of being. As news of the successful Genesis spread across human space and through the Void Collective, Sarah realized they had done more than save humanity or help the Void entities evolve. They had shown the universe a new path forward, one where differences become strengths and ancient enemies become essential partners in creation. The dawn of this new era brought with it infinite possibilities, and as Sarah watched the newborn consciousness explore its existence, she knew that their greatest adventures still lay ahead. Humanity had not just survived. They had helped create something unprecedented in the cosmos, a future where emotion and logic, chaos and order, human and void could coexist and thrive together. And somewhere, in dimensions beyond human perception, the ancient Lumina witnesses would have smiled, knowing that their final message had led not to victory in war, but to triumph through peace.